special MMWP insert thing. I'm not exactly sure if Chris is going to do a little establishing bit to say what this whole thing is or how it's going to work, or if he's just going to like drop our bits in and out. But figured I'd give a little bit of context here at the start, because the whole idea of this is Thanksgiving this year falls on the day we normally record. Well, actually, every year it falls on the day we record if you go by facts. But we want to take the day off because I've had a rather busy weekend, and Chris's family is very big on Thanksgiving, and it seems like my family might be having Thanksgiving make a comeback this year, or at least for us. So we just won't be able to get together to record. So instead, Chris is going to throw together this little thing, and the whole idea is that we will say what we're thankful for in wrestling, and hopefully I'll remember to actually release it during Thanksgiving. Otherwise, I'm an idiot, and you can all tell me in the comments. Now, let's get on to my little list here of things that I'm thankful for in relation to wrestling. First off, this past week, I actually had a really nice kind of free-fold lesson in wrestling toys and the whole world that entails. Like, I was always aware that other companies had licenses to wrestling during the 80s and 90s, but I'm mostly familiar with the Mattel stuff, the more recent Mattel stuff. However, just recently, that Toys That Made Us episode came out. I watched that. And then, this past weekend, I went to a local toy show called Retro Toy Con, and there was such an interesting variety of figures and all sorts of interesting stuff. I actually ended up picking up a few cool retro pieces for my collection, which I'll probably talk about over on Analytical Fanboys in a few weeks for the listeners of this. And I also chatted about it quite a bit with Pixel Dan of the YouTubes, because he was at that convention, and I didn't actually know he was a wrestling guy before then, but getting to talk to him about like old wrestling figures and absorb some of that knowledge was really, really great, and I'm just thankful for that whole opportunity coming to me sort of out of nowhere. And speaking of opportunities that sort of came into my life this last weekend, was I also got to meet the Rock and Roll Express. They were guests at the convention, and they were very nice, solid dudes. They were, of course, pushing their merch quite a bit, as older wrestlers tend to at convention booths, but, you know, they weren't like being obnoxious, sleazy car salesmen about it, so I was fine with that, and it was great to like shake their hands, take a picture, talk to them, get some spoilers for NWA Power, and just all that kind of fun stuff. And now I'm going to go into some more kind of general stuff I'm thankful for in the world of wrestling. Nothing I'm hugely personally related to, but as you all know, I'm a massive fan of the Rhodes family, and I'm thankful for them for providing just decades and decades of wonderful entertainment in the ring and all around it. Great example of how they're still managing to be super inspiring even when they're not on TV. You know, Cody's been out with an injury for a couple weeks now. There was a little thing on Twitter recently where Cody and Brandy had a big media day, had to go and do a lot of appearances and whatnot, and Brandy's been doing this gimmick on Twitter recently with her whole new heel persona in AEW, and she's been doing a bunch of tweets themed around that, but she broke character to be like, I just want to say once again that my husband is one of the best, most talented, most hardworking people I know, and he continues to inspire me because of that. She said, that's not an exact quote, but she said something along those lines, and then like an hour later, Cody responded, thanks, I needed to hear that. And that just warmed my heart to see. You know, that's the kind of relationship I hope to one day have with my future wife. Just that constant support on both sides. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, 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 and I love them. Now switching over to another brand where I want to say I'm thankful for a few little people, or big people, as Keith Lee and Rhea Ripley had one of the most amazing weeks as performers I have seen. I have been able to witness performers go through so far in my history of being a wrestling fan. They were on Raw, NXT, SmackDown, War Games, and Survivor Series this week, and they both did just incredible jobs. They should be the faces of that brand going forward, in my opinion, because they are just such great workers, such incredible performers, and they have instantly captivating personas. In the next couple of weeks, I want to see Rhea Ripley get into a legit program with Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship, and I want to see Keith Lee maybe not go for the NXT Championship just yet, but I think he'd do amazing in a program going for the what do they call it? The North American title. I want to see that happen. I think that could be great. And they've got to do stuff with these people now. There's such momentum with them, and I would be shocked if they didn't. And they are currently my two favorite people in NXT or in WWE in general. Because I have no clue what's happening on Raw or SmackDown except for little snippets I hear on Twitter. And kind of wrapping this up, this little thing I'm recording here up, and swinging it back to a more personal angle, I just want to say I'm thankful for the fact that through this podcast, through working with Chris, through watching various wrestling YouTube channels like Wrestling with Regret, like Wrestle Talk, like all the other people we bring up constantly on the show, I feel like this year, as a wrestling fan, I have really been able to come into my own, and I am immensely happy with that, and I feel like a more complete whole person of it. So I want to say, again, thank you to Chris, thank you to all the people I watch for wrestling regularly, making sure I have my research done. We bring him up every once in a while, but Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, really just incredible pillars for the whole community, and getting to hear their perspective on things every week really helps me sort out and sort of get my thoughts in order in preparation for this show. I'm super happy with my recent subscription to Wrestling Observer Radio, and I'm thankful to all of you. As cheesy as it sounds, I am thankful to all the listeners, because we're not a big podcast. We're an incredibly microscopic, minuscule podcast in the grand scheme of things when it comes to wrestling. But we do have a few regular listeners out there, and I'm thankful for them. And I'm thankful for whoever is listening to this right now. And I hope you and yours have a fantastic Thanksgiving and holiday season overall if you're in the U.S. And if you're outside of the U.S., I hope that you just have a really nice Thursday. Today's Tuesday as I'm recording this. It'll be Thursday when this comes out. I've been working all day and I just got in, so clearly my brain's a little scrambled. But I tried to make this as nice and as wholesome as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it, and I hope to see you not this coming Monday, but the following Monday for the next episode of MMWP. Until then, guys, see you around.
Zach already kind of explained the situation. Holiday season, we didn't want to record an hour-long podcast and be away from family, so we're doing this little Thanksgiving special instead, what we're thankful about in professional wrestling. And I'm going to start off with, I'm thankful for the weirdos, the ones that try and push the bounds in weird and interesting ways, like Orange Cassidy expanding the idea of what a character can be and how you can play into it and how you can work that into matches, or Luchasaurus just being Luchasaurus and being goofy and all that kind of jazz. Or I can't remember his name, but the professional wrestler who is essentially George McFly. That is amazing to me. And we can't forget people like Bray Wyatt pushing the idea of how you can play a character on TV for professional wrestling and all that kind of stuff. I'm thankful that those kind of people are pushing and pulling these strings that have always kind of been there and laid out by people like The Undertaker and so forth, and going like, we can play with these a little bit more in different and in different ways. I'm thankful for the good guys who take their position within this world of professional wrestling and decide to do something amazing with it. Primary example is Sammy for Syria. Sami Zayn has a charity designed to build mobile medical stations for the Syrian people. And it's an amazing, amazing thing that he's doing, and I really appreciate him for doing something like that. Or other elements like John Cena and his variety of charity work, Ali with Mustafa Ali with a very similar thing. I appreciate people who see their position and want to try and make the world a better place. And it doesn't hurt that Sammy lately has been basically cutting promos near directly targeted at my aesthetic. So thank you, Sammy. Specifically for that. I appreciate it. Throw in a Sabby Tabby, please. I'm thankful for the fact that so many organizations are now popping up, not just to serve the needs of different watchers, but also to serve the needs of different kinds of performers, that you don't have to feel like you have to go to WWE in order to be anything, because, well, the world is your oyster, and if you don't want to work that WWE style, you feel like it would be against what you would like to do, there's other places. And I think that's really beneficial to an art form like this, which has always been growing and shrinking in unique ways that it needs room to breathe for a variety of different individuals, and I'm glad that's existing. And thank you to all the wrestlers who aren't making this a dick measuring contest and going like, and making the fans have to choose what they want to watch. It feels like being a comic book fan where you can just pick whatever you want to read and you can read it, and it's good. I'm also thankful for wrestlers and artists who aren't wrestlers just intermingling those artistic endeavors and really not necessarily elevating professional wrestling, but letting it be on the same step, the same plateau as it, with Jericho going into music with Fozzy, or as I found out, the latest signee to AEW, the Butcher, is the guitar player for Every Time I Die. And I've suddenly I found this band and I love it. It's a great band. Or stuff like David Arquette deciding not after his acting career, but now in his life, to try and wrestle and being somewhat successful and being loved by the community. And that's an amazing idea, that wrestling can be this, not necessarily a mainstream art form, but an art form that can be respected by other artists. And at the end of the day, while there are a good number of people who are poo-poo, who are kind of dicks, and may be nasty about some of their opinions, I'm thankful that there's a large contingent of wrestling fans who are here simply because they like wrestling and they just want to watch more of it. I'm thankful for that kind of mentality, and not like the war that many people predicted we might be in right now. I'm thankful that just wrestling exists, because it's such a unique little art form that I don't want to see a world without it. So, that was our little Thanksgiving special. Tune in next week where we'll talk about the last 2 weeks of professional wrestling. And remember to subscribe to that's the wrong thing. I'm leaving it in. Subscribe to Modular Media to see any upcoming podcasts. Remember to go subscribe to the Accumulator's channel, watch some of his videos, subscribe to my channel. The links to those things are, as always, are going to be in the description. And I hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving and a great holiday season coming up.